astronomically. So that's for people who aren't a part of the network, right? And Tesla tries to keep the price so that it's basically a wash. And then speed.
Let's be clear. Y'all paid more for your cars in the first place to make it less obvious.
Not if you buy a Model 3. Not really.
There is extra margin built into the car to help compensate for the chargers. That's
sure, but their prices are lower.
The point is, whether you're paying some up front and less along the way or more along the way, it would be unrealistic to assume that you are not paying for the charging at the same rate as some of the other networks. Yes, there will be some competition. Yes, there's some variability. But the reality is that folks like Ionity or Electrify America or EVgo...
Let's just set the stage up. I looked at a bunch of data on this. Surprise, surprise. 88% of the time in the Tesla user fleet, which is like 20,000 cars now and millions of charging sessions, 88% of the time it is not at a fast charging port at all. So really, for long distance travel, yeah, you need that high fast thing, but you don't need 10 million level 2 ones just.
The car companies, zero. And I think it's a huge transition of going from the burning fossil fuels to the electric drivetrain is just a totally new shift, and a totally new type of propulsion technology that no other automaker has expertise in. So
you think all the incumbent car companies are going to die?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, okay.
Let's
be nuanced. They might all conglomerate. We might see an FCA, VW, BMW, Ford, GM conglomerate, maybe.
Is there any incumbent automaker that you see with promise to survive? We'll say, and put a time frame on it.
Volkswagen.
Over time, car companies have outsourced every single piece of the business model except building the motor, or the thing that burns fossil fuels, which is the one thing that's irrelevant. So they have no expertise in anything else, and a lot of people don't realize that Ford and GM and a lot of car companies are more like banks than they are car companies. They're doing financing for their cars, and so they're super levered to use.
Originally have it in?
And they're. I love that bank analogy. That's fantastic, because not only are they financed, the cars are being financed through them, but also the dealerships. The dealership is basically this thing that's financed going back to the car manufacturer. And as we have seen that Tesla is able to kind of eliminate that dealership model, and even looking at a Bolt or a Leaf, there's not too much that you need to bring it back to the dealer to get repaired. The dealer model is not the best for electric vehicles.
That's why I felt it was really compelling when Bill Ford was up there saying, look, it frees you from the gas pump and frees you from getting oil changes. I was really shocked by that. He's basically saying, look, services, we don't want you to have to do that. I'm thinking, dude, that is a huge chunk of your business. I was really impressed by that. I was surprised.
You were talking to someone at the high level of Ford. Why don't you talk to the dealers? We've heard that when you call the dealers, most of them don't even want to talk to you about the Mach-E if they know anything about it at all.
And I think it's an interesting thing, though, because
problem than the service revenue issue, though.
Yeah.
25 years, I have never met a dealer that is concerned about losing parts and service for EVs. They think they'll be retired by then. Some of them are becoming increasingly open-minded to other revenue, but the education of the dealers in the sales process, third biggest problem facing EVs, no question. But a different conversation than the potential service revenue one.
I'm just saying that if the car companies lose their dealership model, they are losing a huge part of their business, and they're going to have to
I really don't think any of them are going to disappear anytime soon.
They didn't, because they got
20 years, baby.
They got a huge cash infusion from the U.S. government.
And you don't think that would happen again?
I don't want it to.
You don't think that would happen again?
No, it won't be needed.
Okay, I don't know. I would be very surprised if the auto lobby is not able to convince the current administration that they need money and to keep them around.
I haven't even talked about autonomy yet. I think that's one of the big elephants in the room. Autonomy is going to...
That is you not answering my question.
Yeah, I didn't hear a yes or no to the push-up contest.
Any spaces where Tesla is not assumed to be the incumbent leader. They do some things better than others. They certainly own the luxury sedan space, on and on and on. I get that, the truck space might be slightly more open, but do you see any possible territory where somebody else could actually come in and do it at least as well, if not better, than what Tesla has executed so far? Or is it a foregone conclusion?
What a good question.
that on everything, Tesla is the leader until presumed otherwise, even if they've never done in space?
Well, hold on. So Daimler is actually doing a ton of stuff that we don't really hear about in the U.S. a lot, but I get all their press release stuff, and they have this Fuse, EcoTris, I forget what it's called, but they have a lot of these like delivery trucks, not like the big semi-truck, but like the smaller kind of city ones. And they're doing a ton. They even have an e-Sprinter out there. So I think that they're in maybe more of the commercial segment. I would say Daimler is already doing this. Now, granted, it's not an extremely compelling product, but it doesn't matter.
It's meant to be.
Yeah, right. It's not sexy at all, but it doesn't matter. It's economically sexy to them, and it's helping them do whatever. So, I mean, in the commercial space, I would see there's a lot of movement. We don't really hear in the headlines because it's not as interesting to talk about, but you know, Tesla doesn't seem to have a huge interest in that other than a semi, which we're still kind of waiting to see when that's going to come. So
There's room, and that's why I want all of the manufacturers. I don't want them to go out of business. There's thousands of people that work for these companies. It's not like I don't take joy in seeing the companies do poorly.
You sure?
Some joy, but it's it's based on the leaders of the company that aren't doing the right thing, but ultimately they're not the ones who are paying the price, and that's the sad part. That's the part that the pang of sorrow that I feel is
Tesla, or even meet them. Ford is like a Tesla. It's 2012. Like nobody's doing anything.
If they were building a product that I was really blown away by, let me go to the Taycan for a moment. Is it? It follows one particular niche, and I think that it is actually attractive to a particular buyer. Someone who wants to beat a Model S in a drag race, they can get the Taycan, and they can beat the Model S in a drag race, and that's not nothing. Like, that is impressive, and that is important. I want to see more of that.
I think that the startups just have a much better chance because of the innovator's dilemma, and you do not want to cannibalize your highest margin product with a product that loses money, and this is like a business law that is the reason why no legacy automaker has gone all in on electric vehicles, and that's just going to be true. And so that's why companies like Rivian, I think, have such a much better shot, and I personally take them way more seriously. And the other thing is, like, are we pumped to see these companies fail? Like VW, Dieselgate, like, yeah, I'm so pumped to see them fail. That was horrible.
There are so many different options. I mean, go outside and look at some of the e-bikes out there, completely changing the game on how you can get around. That is exciting, especially from, city perspective. One thing that Tesla is absolutely not looking at is mass transit, and in terms of buses and stuff like that. That's where I see BYD and Proterra, those companies that are working on electric buses. That's a huge thing. If you look at places that are actually trying to do that, like China, where they're not ordering 5 buses at a time, they're ordering thousands and thousands of buses at a time. It will make a huge impact.
We don't know exactly what Tesla's going to announce, but their whole game plan is to show us exactly how we do ramp that battery production. So I feel like Tesla, you bring up an excellent point, has been thinking about this and has an answer that they're going to, or partial answer about how to scale that up faster that they're going to talk about in a month or two.
Thinking of it as like us versus them. Like we should be rooting for all these other companies, and Tesla should be helping them.
The framing that you tend to provide about every single other product.
I know you're not talking about me.
Uh-huh.
We're pushing.
I heard you won't even drive the Audi because it doesn't have the range you want.
They haven't given me one. They need a referral program, and then maybe.
Like all these other companies realize that electric vehicles, they need to do it to save their company, to make money, and Tesla's actually has a why behind their company, like to change the world. And I haven't seen, I just think that personally to me makes me want to root for them a lot more.
How much does it matter that they do it for exactly the same reasons? An analogy I use a lot is that I care about the table of electrification. I don't really care what gets you to that table. For me, it's torque and engineering and nerdiness. So for someone else, it's the environment, and it doesn't really matter as long as you get there. As long as the other automakers get there, yes, we'd like them to get there faster. Setting aside personal preference of which company you like better, how much does it matter that they do it for the same reasons Tesla's doing it, or does it just matter that they do it?
If the stakes weren't so high, if the stakes weren't so high, it wouldn't matter so much. If it was like, you know, oh, we're switching to this new technology, it's pretty much the same, you know, putting turbochargers in cars or something, like, would we be up here? Would I care so much? No, I would be like, okay.
The economics, honestly, like they're cheaper, they're better, obviously better for the environment, but I don't think that's a valid argument for most people, because if so, they would buy a Nissan Leaf, they would already be here. I think the economics and its safety, like, those are the things that I think drive it.
And I'm not arguing from over here that they're not yet doing it. My point is that if Chevy or Ford or whomever came to me tomorrow and said, we are doing 1 million EVs because we think we can make crap tons of money, I'm fine with that.
If at the same time they were like, and we're stopping all of our internal combustion engine department, we're shutting it all down, I would say,
oh, come on.
Oh yeah, I am 100, I would literally be 100% behind it. I'd be up on our show every week just being like, wow, they did it. But at the same time, they're not doing that. So every little effort that they're making in terms of electrification,
So it's all